The person you hate the most in the world is about to teach you something shocking about yourself. And once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. Carl Jung discovered something so disturbing that most people would rather die than face it. The person who makes your blood boil. They're carrying pieces of your own soul that you've spent your entire life trying to bury. This isn't therapy, this is mental warfare. And you've been losing without even knowing you were fighting. Every face that makes you sick carries fragments of your disowned darkness. Every voice that makes your skin crawl echoes something you've rejected in yourself. Every behavior that fills you with contempt, you're staring into the abyss of your own shadow. And it's staring back with eyes that feel disturbingly familiar. Watch what happens when someone cuts you off in traffic, that surge of rage. Way too much for such a small offense. Watch when you see someone being lazy, that contempt burning like acid in your throat. There's something deeper happening here. You're not seeing them, you're seeing yourself. The mechanism is brutally elegant. Your psyche takes everything you can't bear to acknowledge about yourself. Then it projects outward like a movie reel onto other people's faces. That narcissist who makes you want to scream, they're wearing your disowned pride. That victim who fills you with disgust, they're carrying your rejected helplessness. That aggressive person who makes your jaw clench, they're embodying the violence you've never allowed yourself to feel. Your hatred isn't random, it's surgical precision. Your hidden mind doesn't just pick anyone to despise, it selects targets with laser accuracy. People who genuinely do possess traces of what you've rejected in yourself. This creates the hook. The projection sticks because there's enough truth to make it believable. The liar you despise actually does lie, but your volcanic reaction? That's because you're seeing your own capacity for deception magnified through the lens of your disowned shadow. This is why identical behavior in different people triggers completely different reactions. One person's arrogance amuses you, another's makes you want to destroy them. The difference isn't their behavior, it's how closely their particular brand mirrors the shadow material buried in your psyche. They're hitting the exact frequency of your disowned self, creating a mental resonance that threatens to shatter every wall between who you think you are and who you actually are. The shadow contains everything you had to reject to survive. Your childhood, your family, your culture. Every social group has spoken and unspoken rules about acceptable traits. The parts that didn't fit got banished to the hidden mind. They don't disappear. They grow in the darkness, becoming more primitive and powerful with each act of denial. Your workplace rewarded ruthless competition. You buried your compassion. Now kind people seem naive. Your friends mocked sensitivity. You buried your gentleness. Now caring people seem weak. Your environment demanded perfection. You hid your flaws. Now imperfect people triggered disgust. Each projection is a breadcrumb trail, leading back to moments when you chose safety over being real, acceptance over wholeness. The most dangerous thing isn't when you hate someone, it's when you feel morally superior to them. That's when you're convinced you're fighting real evil, but you're actually just seeing parts of yourself you refuse to admit exist. The person who makes you feel most righteous? They're showing you exactly what you've hidden from yourself. Perfectionist parents project disowned failure onto others, then become harshly critical of any mistakes. Social justice warriors project disowned aggression, becoming violently intolerant of hatred. Corporate executives project disowned weakness, ruthlessly exploiting perceived vulnerability. Each group believes they're fighting external evil. They're actually waging war against their own disowned humanity. The brain science runs deep. Your mind constantly scans for familiar patterns, especially ones triggering survival responses. When someone displays behavior matching your disowned shadow material, Your alarm system fires warning signals. Your thinking brain creates stories justifying the emotional reaction. You experience this as knowing something's wrong with them. You're actually recognizing something familiar and threatening about yourself. The psychology gets more complex with secondary projections. Projecting onto people who remind you of someone else who carried your original projection. Your father's anger became unbearable. You disowned your own rage, projected it onto him. Now anyone displaying similar energy patterns triggers the same defensive response. Even if their anger is completely justified, you're not responding to them. You're responding to the ghost of your own disowned fury wearing their face. The shadow doesn't just contain negative traits. It holds your disowned light. Positive qualities you couldn't allow yourself to express. The confident person you resent might be carrying your banished self-assurance. The creative person you dismiss as pretentious. They might be holding your rejected artistic gifts. The successful person you hate. They might be mirroring your disowned ambition. You're not just afraid of your capacity for darkness, you're terrified of your potential for greatness. This explains why some people trigger you while others with similar behavior don't. Your boss's confidence inspires you. Your colleague's confidence makes you want to destroy them. Your spouse's creativity delights you. Your neighbor's creativity seems pretentious. The difference lies in which person carries shadow material belonging to you, and which is simply being themselves without hitting your mental landmines. Collective shadow projection operates on massive scales. Social media, politics, cultural movements. Entire groups project disowned traits onto other groups, creating enemies that serve as containers for everything they refuse to acknowledge. Conservatives project disowned rebellion onto liberals. Liberals project disowned control onto conservatives. Each side sees the other as embodying everything wrong with the world, while remaining blind to their own shadow. Your intuition about people often feels divinely guided. You just know someone is fake, manipulative, dangerous. Your gut screams warnings. You trust this feeling like gospel. But what if your intuition about their danger is your hidden mind recognizing its own disowned, destructive potential? What if your sense of their fakeness is your psyche detecting your own buried lies? True discernment is calm, clear, without the emotional charge of personal offense. Shadow projection feels personal because it is personal. You're having a violent reaction to seeing yourself in someone else's skin. The intensity of your judgment reveals the depth of your self-rejection. The more you hate them, the more you're rejecting yourself. This creates a vicious cycle. The more energy you put into maintaining the fiction that you're nothing like the people you despise, the stronger your shadow becomes. Every act of denial feeds the traits you're trying to disown, making them more primitive, more compulsive, more likely to possess you when your conscious defenses are down. This explains why the most judgmental people get caught doing exactly what they've been condemning. The anti-corruption politician gets arrested for fraud. The wellness guru gets exposed for unhealthy habits. The spiritual teacher preaching about ego gets exposed as a narcissist. They weren't hypocrites. They were unaware of their own shadow, which grew stronger with each act of projection until it exploded into their conscious life. The projection method operates through unconsciously provoking others to act out your disowned traits. You might secretly trigger someone's anger, then judge them for being angry. You might subtly manipulate someone into being controlling, then condemn them for being manipulative. You might project helplessness onto someone until they actually become helpless, then despise them for their weakness. You're not just seeing your shadow in others, you're actively creating it. Integration requires the grueling process of withdrawing projections, taking back disowned parts of yourself that you've been seeing in other people. This means admitting you contain every trait you've ever judged in another human being. Facing the possibility that you're capable of every behavior you've ever condemned. Acknowledging that the people you hate most are your most valuable teachers. Showing you exactly which parts of yourself need integration. But here's the paradox that could shatter your world. The moment you truly own your shadow, it loses its power to possess you. When you admit you're capable of lying, you become less likely to lie without thinking. When you acknowledge your capacity for cruelty, you gain the ability to choose kindness consciously. When you accept your potential for weakness, you access authentic strength. The person who has never acknowledged their capacity for evil is the most dangerous person alive. They'll cause tremendous harm while believing they're doing good. The person who has faced their shadow and chosen to consciously embody their light, they're the most trustworthy because they know exactly what they're capable of and have decided who they want to be. The integration process doesn't mean acting on every impulse or embracing destructive behavior. It means developing a conscious relationship with every aspect of your humanity. Instead of trying to cut off parts that don't fit your ideal self-image, it means becoming friends with your inner monster, so it doesn't sneak out and destroy your life while you're not looking. Practical shadow work involves catching yourself in the moment of judgment. Ask specific questions. What aspect of myself am I seeing in this person? When have I displayed similar behavior? What would I need to believe about myself to act this way? What part of my history does this person's behavior remind me of? What would happen if I owned this trait instead of rejecting it? Start paying attention to your emotional reactions. When someone triggers intense dislike, ask what aspect of yourself you might be seeing in them. When someone's behavior makes you feel morally superior, explore what you're disowning in yourself. When someone's success makes you bitter, examine what ambitions you've rejected. When someone's weakness makes you uncomfortable, investigate what feelings you've armored against. Pay attention to how you talk about people you don't like. When you call someone fake, ask yourself where you're not being real. When you say they're attention-seeking, notice where you want to be seen but won't admit it. When you call them controlling, look at how you try to manipulate situations. When you say they're weak, find where you won't accept your own limits. Every criticism you make is actually telling on yourself. The people who trigger you most intensely are offering you a roadmap back to wholeness. They're walking around with pieces of your authentic self, pieces you cut off long ago in the name of survival. Acceptance, love. The selfish person you despise reflects your disowned self-care. The dramatic person you mock carries your rejected need for attention. The controlling person you hate mirrors your denied desire for power. The weak person who disgusts you holds your refused weakness. Every person who makes you want to crawl out of your skin is asking the same question. Are you ready to stop fighting yourself? Are you ready to stop projecting your shadow onto others and start owning your full humanity? Are you ready to transform from a fragmented person at war with their own reflection into a whole human being who has made peace with their darkness and chosen their light? The war you think you're fighting with other people is actually a civil war, raging in your own psyche. Every external enemy is an internal battle you haven't won yet. Every person you hate is a mirror you haven't faced. Every trigger is a teacher you haven't thanked. Every projection is a piece of your soul waiting to come home. The parts of yourself you've been avoiding aren't the problem. They're the solution. You just need to be brave enough to look at the people who trigger you and admit the truth. I see myself in you and I'm ready to stop running from it. Because the question isn't whether you'll ever stop seeing yourself in other people. Projection is hardwired into human psychology. The question is whether you'll develop the courage to own what you see instead of attacking the mirror. The people you hate aren't obstacles to your growth. They're the keys to your freedom, walking around with pieces of your soul, waiting for you to be brave enough to recognize yourself in their eyes and reclaim what was always yours. The most terrifying realization? You chose them. Your hidden mind specifically selected people who would force you to confront what you've spent your life running from. Every person who triggers you is a carefully placed landmine in the minefield of your own psyche, waiting to explode and reveal the parts of yourself you've been too terrified to claim. Your hatred is literally making you become more like the person you despise. The rejected parts of yourself don't disappear when you deny them. They grow stronger in the shadows, more primitive, more destructive, feeding on the energy you put into maintaining your idealized self-image. This is the horror of projection. It feels like truth. It feels like righteous discernment. It feels like you're seeing clearly when you're actually blind to your own reflection. The person who triggers the strongest "something's wrong with them" feeling. Usually the one showing you something that's wrong with you. Every face that fills you with rage is asking you the same question. Will you keep fighting yourself? Or will you finally come home to the wholeness you've been seeking in all the wrong places? The choice is yours. But the clock is ticking, and your shadow is growing stronger with every moment you refuse to face it.